If you've watched many naval history documentaries, you've probably seen this footage before. It's of HMS Barham, just 4 minutes after she was torpedoed by a German U-boat in the Mediterranean. As the battleship begins to capsize, the crew rush to abandon her, when suddenly a colossal explosion erupts from deep within the hull. It's one of the most dramatic moments captured on film during the Second World War, and it ensured a terrible loss of life. But how did a battleship as large and as sturdy as Barham meet such a rapid and devastating end? As the sun rose on November 25th, 1941, HMS Barham was steaming westward off the Egyptian coast with the rest of the Mediterranean fleet. The British, under Admiral Andrew Cunningham, were attempting to intercept Italian convoys resupplying Axis forces in Libya. At the heart of the fleet were its 3 battleships, Queen Elizabeth, Valiant and Barham. These ships were veterans. They had been rebuilt and modernised extensively during the interwar years, having originally been built during the First World War. Barham and Valiant had seen service at the Battle of Jutland. By 1941 then, these ships were veterans, but they were still bristling with firepower. 8 15-inch guns, a powerful secondary battery, and a larger than ever anti-aircraft armament. But as the British ships headed west, danger lurked ahead. Lying in wait was the German submarine U-331, commanded by Lieutenant Hans Dietrich Freiherr von Tiesenhausen. U-331 was manoeuvring into an attack position, having picked up the sounds of British propellers early in the day. Soon, Tiesenhausen had his boat on a collision course with the Mediterranean fleet. He knew that he would get only one chance. Sinking a battleship would be a career-defining triumph, but getting close enough to achieve that meant slipping past the British destroyer screen, something far easier said than done. If he failed, the best case was many hours deep underwater while British depth charges rained down, and the worst case didn't bear thinking about. Through the afternoon, U-331 crept its way closer at periscope depth, with every minute taking it closer to the British fleet. At 4:15 PM, HMS Jervis picked up a large sonar contact, close on its port side. But in a critical moment, the contact was deemed to be far too large to be a U-boat. Thermal layers, rapid temperature changes in the water, were a notorious problem in the Mediterranean, often creating false echoes. After only a brief consideration, the sonar operator's warning was dismissed as just such a phenomenon. HMS Griffin, to be south of Jervis's position in the screen, did not pick up anything on its screens at all, allowing U-331 to pass by unchallenged. Having successfully eluded the destroyers, Tiesenhausen now faced the decisive moment. 3 battleships lay ahead of him. His initial aim was the lead ship, Cunningham's flagship, Queen Elizabeth. He manoeuvred U-331 into position and began final preparations for the torpedo spread. But at 4:21, the 3 battleships suddenly turned simultaneously to the west. The British fleet was following a zigzag pattern, a standard anti-submarine precaution. By pure coincidence, the moment for their next turn arrived just as U-331 was lining her attack up. Queen Elizabeth swung round to port, throwing off the carefully calculated angle. This sudden change in course forced Tiesenhausen to switch target, as Queen Elizabeth was now going to be virtually past his boat by the time he got lined up again. Instead, he would have a shot at incredibly close range on the Barham. On board Barham, meanwhile, nothing at all seemed amiss. Captain Geoffrey Cook had no reason to suppose that a U-boat was already within striking distance. The day's voyage this far had been uneventful. Officers kept up routine tasks, lookouts scanned the horizon for aircraft, and the great ship surged steadily forward, unaware that it was just minutes from disaster. At 4:25 PM, U-331 fired 4 torpedoes from less than 300 yards away. It was virtually point-blank range, and Barham had no time to react before torpedoes slammed into her port side in quick succession. The firing caused U-331 to rise rapidly, The sudden loss of weight made the submarine unexpectedly buoyant. Within seconds, the periscope and then the entire conning tower broke the surface directly in front of Valiant. Valiant slammed her rudder to starboard in an attempt to ram, but the submarine was just able to evade, and instead slid down the side of the battleship less than 50 yards away, before crash diving as some of the battleship's anti-air guns opened fire. On Barham, the situation was disastrous. At least 3 of the torpedoes had hit the battleship, causing catastrophic damage and a rapid list to port. In just a couple of minutes, it was obvious that Barham would go down, and the crew began to abandon ship. Men poured onto the deck, struggling to keep their footing as the angle increased. The exact cause of what happened can never be known now, but a board of inquiry established that the most likely scenario was that a fire had started near the port 15-inch magazine for the stern turrets. This was an area where extra 4-inch anti-aircraft ammunition was being stored, as there wasn't enough space in the existing magazines for everything Barham required. Crucially, this space was located outside of the armoured citadel and protected only by a narrow bit of the torpedo protection bulge. At some stage, about 4 minutes after the impact of the torpedoes, just as the ship rolled over fully onto its side, or perhaps because of this, the fire made its way into the main 15-inch magazines. This colossal explosion shattered whatever was left of the stern of Barham, and the ship rapidly capsized. It was an explosion of devastating brutality, and the scenes that followed were horrific. Hundreds of sailors were thrown into the water, some injured, others struggling against burning fuel on the surface. Within a few minutes, the battleship was gone completely. The destroyers HMS Nizam and HMS Hotspur and other escort vessels rushed in to try and see what they could do to help, weaving amongst debris to rescue survivors. In the end, some 449 sailors were picked up alive, with 862 lost with Barham, including Captain Cook. The loss of Barham was a body blow to the Mediterranean fleet, and its loss was considered sensitive enough that the Admiralty kept it a public secret for more than 2 months after the ship was lost, informing only sailors' next of kin about what had happened. Eventually, in January 1942, its sinking was revealed. Once the British had belatedly confirmed Barham's loss, U-331's commander received the Knight's Cross, a high honour for a U-boat skipper. HMS Barham, however, lived on in a tragic and iconic form, the film footage of her final explosion. A stark reminder of just how brutal naval warfare can be. Thanks as always to the Historiograph patrons for their support in making these videos happen. If you want to join their number and get early access to videos and behind the scenes updates on what's going on the channel, please consider signing up over on Patreon. Also consider buying a poster, they're really good, I promise.